Drive. This has been the 16-play drive for the Raiders. Well, here's a seminal point in the game and maybe the season as the Raiders try to get that first victory. Derek Carr tries to come up with the moment of his young career. First and goal to go, 9-yard line. In the shotgun, Carr's going to throw, pumps, looks end zone. The Raiders at last have won a football game.
That just says about the fight in this team. To be able to do it, I'm just so happy for my teammates. To see them smile, we're running the ball good, and him come back to the huddle fired up, feeling good about themselves. That's the kind of stuff that fires me up. That was awesome.
What is going on, Raider Nation? I'm Hardcore Raider, going live during the games because I don't give 2 cents about pretty much anybody playing right now. As long as the Chiefs and the Chargers lose, that's all I care about, as long as they don't get a Super Bowl ring. So don't give 2 cents about the Niners playing right now. I just wanted to go live real quick, kind of talk about a couple things I've been thinking about. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. Decided I'm going to give the Davante Adams jersey giveaway right here. Do that like the weekend before the Super Bowl when there's no games on. That way I'll do it on a Saturday. That way everybody can participate in that. So make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, turn your notifications on, and then I'll drop a video of the details so everybody has a chance to enter to win that jersey. So one of the things I've been thinking about, kind of talked about in my last video, it's kind of a long video, but one of the things that, we were contemplating is where Derek Carr would go in 2023. Okay. I'm going to put myself in this category as well. As far as insert foot and mouth, a lot of Raider content creators and people out there, we think about it with our fan hat on, right? We think about it from the standpoint of like what we think would be best, right? Without really doing an analytical like research and like deep dive into like what makes the most sense. So this video, I want us to kind of look at this as like a more analytical standpoint and what makes sense as far as like the GM perspective. So I do have the game on in the background, so I'll be glancing over, looking at that every so often. Right now, looks like Niners just stopped the Seahawks 3-0 Niners. So they got a good defense, but we'll see. We'll see how this game plays out. It'll be interesting. But anyway, so, we look at it standpoint as like a fan, right? Where we don't look at the numbers. So I want to crunch the numbers. What would actually make sense if we were the general manager of that team? How much money is available? And if we could even sign Derek Carr. So we're going to like kind of, first of all, we'll look at like the overall view to some degree of what people's, what teams cap space available might be. Now, keep in mind, before we dive into this is probably going to change because I don't think they've updated what the new cap space availability is. So it's going to jump probably 15 to 20 million, somewhere in there, above what any of these numbers are. So before we like pull up a screen and kind of do a deep dive into all this, keep that in mind that the cap space for all these teams is probably going to be anywhere from 15 to 20 million, and maybe a little bit more. We'll see. But Ricardo Diaz, what up, man? Torque Ollie. Are you a Carr fan or Raiders fan? Shout out to you, Torque Ollie. Dude, I'm a Raiders fan, man. I wish Derek Carr the best wherever he goes. Hopefully he has a successful future, except when we're playing him, dude. So that's where I've always been at. I'm a Raider fan first. I'll support players that are, wearing our colors, bleeding silver and black, but it's always about the Raiders first, So things didn't end the best with Carr, but moving forward, hopefully he finds the best situation that's best for him. And that's part of this, guys. We're going to kind of get into that. So besides the general manager standpoint of like, can that team sign Derek Carr that we're going to jump into? The other thing to think about is like, what's a good fit for Derek Carr? So his brother went on NFL Network, said, Derek Carr wants to go to an organization that has a good owner essentially and a good coach, and that essentially it's got to be stability. So like some of these teams that have all these changes with coaching and general manager, it's not going to work out, guys. It won't work out. So we have to, besides the money aspect, we got to throw in, is it a stable franchise for Derek Carr? So we're going to look at it from two standpoints. One, if we were the general manager of that team, okay, and if the numbers make sense. And then two, is it a good fit for Derek Carr? So we'll try to go through those things, and we'll leave it at that. So that's right, man. It's always about silver and black. So appreciate you, man. Everybody in here. What's up, Cuban Raider, Raphael? All right, so let's kind of we'll dive into this first thing right here. Give me 1 second. Where is it at? All right, I think we'll start with this one. I'll have to click between screens, so be patient with me here. All right, and then let me click back. Nope, that's not it. Okay, all right. So here's a little article. This kind of goes over some things we're just going to kind of glance at, right? So this is just like who has the least cap space in the NFL. And sorry guys about these stupid pop-ups that always come on, but or come up. So which teams have the least amount of salary cap space, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, I think Derek Carr would be a great, for the New Orleans Saints. Look at this, -$49 million, guys. That's what happens. This is what happens, guys, when you overpay a quarterback, right? Drew Brees, and you backload his contract. You keep pushing the contract back and back. New Orleans is in. And so keep in mind, this is for next year. Okay. That's what they're projected to have as of now. They're -$49 million, almost -$50 million. So is that a team that can sign Derek Carr right now? Is New Orleans Saints a team that can sign Derek Carr? Okay. I'm going to say no. Okay. And then here we go. And I'm going to put myself in this category as well as a lot of other Raider content creators. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, -$42 million. -$42 million. Yeah, some of these could change 15 to 20 million if they increase the cap space. But Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, I thought that might be a fit for Derek Carr. Not with those kind of numbers. They don't have enough money to sign Derek Carr. Titans, possibly, okay, -$27 million. Green Bay Packers, -$20 million. The Packers are in a world of shit. This is what happens when you sign a quarterback $50 million a year. So this is why I've said for 3 years when I said, when I was critical of Derek Carr and I said he didn't earn his contract, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of what money is available after you pay your quarterback that kind of money. So the Packers, with them signing Aaron Rodgers to that $50 million deal, what are the Packers going to do with -$21 million in cap space? Now, if it gets increased by 20 million, maybe they only have to cut one player. But some of these teams are going to have to cut players to stay under the cap space. And then the Browns, -$12 million. So these are important things to consider, okay? Sorry, let me scroll up because they did have teams with the most top 5 with the most cap space. So Chicago Bears, right? They have a lot of money. They're not in the market for a quarterback right now. Okay. Atlanta Falcons, that's a possibility. They'll have 58 million plus maybe 15, 20 million. New York Giants, that's a potential landing spot too, a realistic one. Baltimore Ravens, that's a possibility. Seattle Seahawks, another possibility. They have enough money, whether it's Derek Carr or someone else, they can float the kind of money that should be available for them to bring in a quarterback. So let me go back to the chat here, see if you guys are saying anything. Yeah, I mean, Dominique, like I hear that, dude. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate that. So Dominique saying like cap space can always be manipulated. You don't look too much into this. No, that's not accurate at all. I mean, I appreciate you, but like that's not accurate at all, dude. And we're gonna get into it, guys. We're gonna get into it. When you backload people's contracts, you're in a situation like Tampa Bay Buccaneers is in, buddy. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you want me to pull it back up? Dude, they have negative. Where's it at? -$42 million in cap space. Why? Because they did what you're saying, backloading the contract. So that hurts them, dude. They have to cut players. they are going to have to cut players or restructure the contract. And then if they keep restructuring contracts, like what you're saying, and a lot of us as fans, this is where people get shit twisted, dude. Us as fans, we think NFL teams have an endless amount of bank account that you can sign every player, no matter who they are, for whatever amount of money and whatnot. But that's not realistic. That's La La Land, bro. That's not realistic, because you're going to be in a situation where you're like the freaking the New Orleans Saints, and you're negative 50 million in cap space because they're still paying Drew Brees. So we'll get into it, guys. We'll get into it. You don't have to believe me. Do your own research. That's why we are freaking doing this, okay? Because people are doing these clickbait shit, and they don't even think about this, guys. They like literally don't put enough effort into thinking about this. Oh, sorry. Let's go into this one right here. All right, so let's go into like kind of some of these top landing spots for Derek Carr, guys. All right, Al's Ghost, shout out to you, man. So, and I ain't trying to put people on blast, but we got to use our brains, right? Like we got to put our thinking caps on. We're not trying to do clickbait stuff. We're trying to like think about this from a realistic standpoint, right? What did I say? Take your fan hat off. We're putting our general manager hat on. We're seeing what makes sense, okay? So we'll scroll through these real quick, and then we're going to dive into their cap space available and see if it actually makes sense. If we take off our fan hat, put the general manager hat on, does it actually make sense? Okay. So when we look at this, and you know, we're gonna do like a deep dive into this. All right, New York Jets. Okay, that's one of the landing spots for Derek Carr. Okay, Indianapolis Colts, another landing spot for Derek Carr. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're gonna go through all these. Right, New Orleans Saints, they're on here. Right, Carolina Panthers, they're on here. Washington Commanders. Okay. And there's some others, but we'll start with this list right here. And if you guys have another team you want to look at, we'll do that. So first up, let's dive into the New York Jets here. Okay. I'm not going to read the article. You guys can do that on your own time or whatever. All right. So this is overthecap.com. I like this one. It's a little, might be a little confusing for some people to see. Let me see if I can blow it up. Hold on. All right, it should be a little bigger now. Okay. So, all right, the Jets, look at their cap space available, guys. 3 million, right? 3 million projected in cap space for 2023. So here's the deal. You have to go down the line here, guys. Okay. Yeah, maybe we should factor in that 15 to 20 million, but let's just say we didn't. Okay. Derek Carr is going to want, let's say 35 million. Okay. Let's not even consider the 40 or $44 million in the contract, whether we trade him or we cut him or whatever. Okay. So if you look at right here, they got dead money, right? And they got cap savings. Okay. The main one we want to look at is cap savings. Okay. So let's say we're looking at the Jets, right? And we're like, oh, well, Derek Carr is going to the Jets. Oh, really? Does the Jets have $35 million available here, guys? Do they? Now, yeah, maybe if you added in like the increase in cap space, 20 million, they might be like 23 million they'd have available, but they're still about 15 million short if they really wanted Derek Carr. Okay. So we need to look at who they would cut in this number right here, cap savings. All right. So you got CJ Mosley. Okay. Pretty damn good player. They would only save 6.5 million. Okay. Go down the line, Carl Lawson. They would save if they cut him. So we're looking at players that if they cut that player or traded him or whatever, what they could save in their money. So Carl Lawson, if they got rid of him, they could save $15.4 million. Okay. Corey Davis, they could save $10.5 million. So we're looking for high numbers where players they cut, what they would save. Okay. Now, yeah, we should look at like how much of a hit they would take, but I'm more concerned about the savings that they would have if they cut a player or traded a player. Okay. So like here's a good example of one you would not do. Quinnen Williams, they would save $0 by trading or cutting Quinnen Williams. And they're not just going to cut these players outright. It would have to be a trade. Okay. So say we're like, hey, we want, we're the Raiders, right? We're willing to get, give Derek Carr to you guys. But you know what? We want CJ Mosley for Derek Carr, and we want Carl Lawson. So that would save them, I don't know, we'll say about $20 million. Okay. Now they could backload Derek Carr's contract, but they're going to end up in the same situation that the Saints are in, and the Saints are fucked. So is Tampa Bay Buccaneers, guys. So a lot of teams are. This is what happens when you backload the contracts, where everybody thinks there's an endless cap amount. It's absolutely bullshit, because we're thinking about it when we do that. We're thinking about it from a fan hat and not like a business standpoint and general manager standpoint. Essentially, what you're doing is you are sacrificing long-term growth for short-term success. And yeah, if you get a Super Bowl out of it, that's great. But like, let's say we were like Carl Lawson, all right, edge rusher. Okay. Are we willing to pay that kind of money, for an edge rusher when we just paid Chandler Jones? Probably not. Okay. Probably not. Sorry, I should share that tab with you guys. There you go. Carl Lawson. Okay. We could dive into his contract details and all that, but it doesn't even matter, because when you look at it and you're like from an analytical standpoint, and sorry guys, it messed up my shared screen thing. When you look at it from an analytical standpoint, you realize it doesn't make sense. It has to make sense, guys. If it doesn't make sense, then there's it's not going to happen. Okay. So I'm just saying, let's think about this like with our brains a little bit better. Okay. That's all I'm saying. So, Ricardo, those are facts. Won't help them. Yeah. Edward, shout out to you, man. He said, also Carr gonna make the Raiders cut him. Yeah, probably. We'll take a $5.6 million hit. I think that's best for all parties at this point. I don't think, the whole trade thing, there's too much liability. If I'm a business owner, if I'm like the general manager of the Raiders, right? Obviously I'm not, but if I am, there's too much liability for both sides to screw the other person over. And Derek Carr's a good guy. I'm not like going after his integrity. I'm just saying, like, does it make sense? So let's say here, let's just do the what if game. All right, we're gonna get Carl Lawson off of the cap space. So the cap space jumped from 3 million to 18 million. Okay, we're getting a little better. Add 15, 20 million there. Now, if they traded that guy or got rid of him or something, then you might have enough cap space to sign Derek Carr. But you might need to do another one like CJ Mosley to get Derek Carr. So the Jets are not in a position right now to go after Derek Carr unless they cut some of their players. They have to cut one or two of these guys, right? If we go in and we're like, all right, CJ Mosley, 31 years old. I mean, I'd love to have CJ Mosley on our team, right? Age 30. He'd be an awesome linebacker for us if we could work out a trade. Like if say we were going to trade, could we trade for CJ Mosley and maybe something else? I don't know. Is it an even swap? Like it's hard to say. It is hard to kind of say. So looking at this, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the Jets are a realistic landing spot given how much cap space they have available and what they have to spend, for Derek Carr? I'm not convinced they do. I'm gonna actually say no. Even if you add in the 20 million, that they'd only have like 23 million available in cap space unless they backload the contract and they're in a win now mode, then possibly. But see, this is where you get in a predicament where now you have to cut your top dogs like CJ Mosley to get a quarterback, and then now your defense isn't going to be quite as good. Now they could go get a linebacker in the draft, okay? So like for looking at, from their standpoint, like say they're like, all right, we're gonna cut or trade CJ Mosley, free up some money, and then we're gonna draft a linebacker. They could do that. They absolutely could do that, So that's a possibility. That is definitely a possibility. So click over the chat here real quick, see what you guys are thinking. Hopefully you guys are having a good Saturday, playoffs and all that stuff. Wish we were in it. Edward said he's going to Miami. We'll look at Miami. That's one of the ones we can look at. Shout out to you, Jeffrey. He says wearing his Carr jersey. That's awesome, dude. About a trade for New England, Mac Jones. I don't want Mac Jones. We could look at their salary as well. He's not going to the Saints, dude. All right, so let's just go in order. Raider Way, what's up, brother? Salute. Hopefully you're doing good. Everybody else in the chat, thank you guys for joining. If you guys are just tuning in, we're doing a deep dive into realistic like potential spots that Derek Carr could go to, and we're looking at these team salary caps. Okay, so we're taking off our fan hat. We're putting our general manager hat on, and we'll go from there. All right, next up, let's just say it's the Colts, okay? Get into the Colts. Let's say, all right, we don't think the Jets is a good fit, okay? The first part was the money. The money doesn't exactly work out, to say the least, okay? The next part is the Jets a stable enough franchise for Derek Carr? With the coach still being there and stuff, that could be a good fit. That, the franchise, as far as like the owner and the general manager, could be, good enough for Derek Carr to consider a landing spot, okay? But let's get into the Colts, okay? Now, the Colts, before we get into the money and whatnot, is I don't know why it's not coming up. Here we go. All right. Colts are in a transitional phase where they don't even have a coach right now, guys, right? They don't have a coach right now. So their cap space is at $13 million. Okay. Now, if you look here, if you guys look here, look at Matt Ryan, 38 years old, right? He's getting $18 million, guys, right? $18 million is like dead money, but the savings would be 17 million if they just cut Matt Ryan. So I'm going to say that the Colts, is a potential spot, but they still don't have enough money available when we look at this to say that the Colts is like a true landing spot for Derek Carr. And this goes for like more than just the quarterback position. Like the Raiders, I'll do a separate video. The Raiders are in the same predicament, guys. This is why I said we can't overpay a quarterback, okay? So let's say we're going to cut Matt Ryan here, right? Let's cut him. Look at the cap space increase from 13 million, where it's at right now. We're going to cut him. All right, increase to 30 million, okay? Now, plus maybe say 15 million, right? Maybe you increase that by 15, 20 million when they increase the cap space. They could have enough if they cut Matt Ryan. Okay. Now let's say they're like, well, we gotta cut Matt Ryan and we need to do something else. Okay. So we're going to go in here. We're like, well, who in here is going to save us a lot of money? And that's this dude right here, DeForest Buckner, guys. If they cut him, they would save them $19 million, right? $19 million. So let's do it. Let's say we traded Buckner for Derek Carr. Now that increases their cap space to 49 million. Now, if the Jets feel they can go in the draft and they can, get rid of Buckner and they can draft a defensive lineman that may not be as good, but pretty good, but it saves them enough money where they can go out and get Derek Carr and they feel like they're a win now team. I would say that's a smart decision, right? But from Derek Carr's standpoint, who's going to be the coach? Now, if Derek Carr has someone like our old offensive coordinator go to the Colts and they use Gruden's playbook, then maybe that's a good fit, but it would have to be something where it's a playbook that Carr already knows, like meaning I'm drawing a blank on his name, apologize, but if Derek Carr can go somewhere where it's a new coach, but if they use a playbook, he used like Gruden's playbook where he doesn't have to transition that, that I think would be a good scenario, and if we go in, we look at DeForest Buckner here, this guy's a stud, man. We need an interior offensive or defensive lineman. DeForest Buckner, I could see this being a realistic possibility, guys. The question is the Colts willing to give up DeForest Buckner here to the Raiders to get Derek Carr? I think that would be more realistic doing a trade like that than a draft pick, right? Because if they were to make that trade, they can go in and they can freaking draft an interior defensive lineman, so, things to consider about, I think these are all things that we should be looking at when we just oh, he's going to go here. I mean, like some of these guys doing Raider content, like seriously, do not even use their fucking brain, right? They're just like, oh, he's going to go to the Colts. Oh, he's going to go to this team. They're not even looking at this shit, guys. They seriously are not even looking at this shit, So I want to do a deeper dive, analytical, a way to look at it analytically, like from looking at all sides of the coin, not just like, oh, we're going to, do it because of this reason or that reason. And like, you start looking at the numbers and you're like, wait, that don't make any sense at all. Okay. And, we're not done. So, switch this over. All right. So we did the Colts. Okay. Colts could be a possibility, but they have to cut, Matt Ryan, obviously. And they got to, they might have to cut another player. I would be willing, if we're going to do the trade thing, I would be willing if the Raiders could get DeForest Buckner, that would be amazing. But then you got to think the Raiders got to take on that $20 million a year contract, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Are we going to have $20 million available after we pay a quarterback and hopefully pay Josh Jacobs to be able to afford a defensive lineman at $20 million? Okay. But this is why I said we can't overpay for a quarterback. All right. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay. So let's get in here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be next up on the list, right? This is one I thought would make sense, right? Like my fan hat, right? My fan hat said, oh, we can do Derek Carr to Tampa Bay. That, Derek Carr, that might be a place Derek Carr would want to go. And, they have a pretty good team and all that. So pulling it up here, this is a nightmare, guys. If you are the general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you look at this, I mean, you're in like, what the fuck am I going to do situation here, guys? If you are negative 49 or 43, pretty much negative $44 million, you're in deep shit. You're in deep shit right here. Yeah, no, that would be a great trade. And to be fair, and you know what? I know Josh McDaniels screwed over the Colts, but let's think about it. We did do a trade with the Colts last year, right? We traded Inaki Gakwe or whatever for Rocky Sin, and we did a trade with them. So it's not impossible for there to be something worked out for that. Okay. So let me switch back to this other screen here. All right, we'll dive into this Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, so they have about 44 million negative in cap space, guys. Negative, okay? So this is what I'm saying, dude. Put on our thinking hats, right? They owe Tom Brady this next year $35 million. Keep in mind, this is a year where they won't have Tom Brady. So they got to pay Brady $35 million, but Brady will not be on their team because they backloaded the contract, right? Now in 2024, they're going to have a lot of money. So a lot of teams, but they're going to have a lot more money to work with. But right now, they're in like cap hell. They have to figure out who they're going to cut to be under the cap. Even if the cap increase is say 20 million, they're still negative $23 million over the cap. So then you got to go in, right? We got to go in and we got to be like, okay, well, like who could they cut or trade to save money? This one's a big savings. Donovan Smith, right? Donovan Smith here, who's a left tackle. So, if we were going to do something, maybe a trade, like, so say we're like, all right, we're looking at this. We're like, well, Derek Carr is going to Tampa Bay. Well, we'd have to somehow include this left tackle, and that only saves them $10 million, guys. That is only going to save them $10 million if we did that trade. I'd love to have another stud tackle. $10 million, I think that's a fair deal for us to take on, right? Kind of deal. Now, Devin White, I was talking about, well, would Devin White come to the Raiders? They exercise his 5th-year option, okay? So the amount they would save by cutting or trading Devin White is $0. So Devin White can't be part of the trade. Business-wise, you would not be able to get rid of Devin White. So Devin White is going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer again next year. Now, this is an interesting one. Not a whole lot of money, but a little bit, right? Shaquille Mason, right guard, right? He's an amazing right guard. Shaquille Mason, if they included that in the deal, maybe we get a tackle and a guard for the trade deal, right? I don't hate that as a Raider fan. I don't know if they're willing to make that kind of deal, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got to figure something out, guys, for what they're going to do. That they need to free up $20 million in cap space. They are utterly fucked, guys. If you were the general manager at this, like for this organization, you are hating life because you have to cut players or trade players. You have to get under that cap. Okay. And like you start going down the line, like most of these, like, negative 836. I'm not even looking at guys' names. I'm just looking for the numbers that make sense. 0 for saving on that. Julio Jones, 0. So they went all in, guys. This is what happens when a franchise goes all in and try to win a Super Bowl. Leonard Fournette, we don't need a running back, but like, look, you'd only save $3.5 million there. Probably their best bet would be their guard, Shaquille Mason, and their offensive tackle. Trying to find it right here. Donovan Smith, right here. they'd have to find some sort of package to free up those two guys. And that would still only be, if you think about it, that would only free up like stinking, 15 million, right? We got, about 5 million down here and we got 10 million up here. So that's only going to free up 15 million. Now, if you free up, say, 15 million, does that put you anywhere close to being under the cap? No, you're in cap purgatory hell right now. I don't know how the fuck they're going to do it unless Brady was like, well, we can restructure it again and whatever to help him out. He's probably not going to do that though. So Tom Brady won't be on their team, and they still got to figure it out. And if Derek Carr wants to say 35 million, okay, I'm just going to use 35 as a round number. No matter what they do, they aren't getting under the cap. So there's no way Derek Carr is going to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, guys. No way. They don't have the money. Like logically and mathematically, there's no way Tampa Bay could bring on Derek Carr. So Derek Carr ain't going to Tampa Bay. All right, New Orleans Saints. Okay, here's another one. Hot take. Well, I think he's New Orleans Saints because of Dennis Allen and all this other shit, right? So Dennis Allen is a good fit for Derek Carr, and maybe it is, right? But do the numbers line up? Remember when we were going in this and we were looking at teams like with the cap space, right? The New Orleans Saints is negative $50 million, guys. Negative $50 million. So, okay, so let's go in. Let's pull up the Saints here and let's see where if they can make any cuts or anything, free up any money, right? I'll click back over the chat, see if anybody's saying anything. Thank you, everybody. Please subscribe to my channel. Appreciate it. I mean, I think Brady's going to be a Raider whether we want it to happen or not. You know what I mean? Raider Way says, sign Brady for $5 million. Let Tampa Bay pay the $35 million. Bring in O-line, D-line, and linebacker. I like it. If we could pay Brady $5 million, that'd be awesome. Brady's probably going to want 35, 40 million, guys. And if we tag Jacobs, that's 10 to 12, 13 million, M85, shout out to you. Said, imagine going from Brady to Carr. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Edward said Miami has an offense similar to Miami, easy peasy too. Yeah, we'll do Miami. Don't let me forget about it because I don't think that was one of the ones on this article. Okay, I'm trying to go in order and whatnot. So, all right, New Orleans Saints. Okay, New Orleans Saints. They're in a bad situation, guys. Negative 53 million in cap space, right? Negative 53 million, and this is because the Drew Brees contract, right? We go in here. Marshawn Lattimore, I mean, negative 20 million savings. Let's see who else. Jameis Winston, 4.4 million. That ain't enough. Again, I'm just looking for guys where like maybe they could cut enough guys to put them closer. James Hurst, 4.7 million. And then everybody else, like there's like all these are such small numbers. It's not even gonna get them close, guys. So I have no idea what they're going to do. All I know is that they are utterly and completely fucked. Okay. Utterly fucked. I have no idea what they're going to do, but I'll tell you, like, this is why Sean Payton left. Sean Payton everybody thinks Sean Payton's a great coach, dude. He put them in purgatory hell. He fucked their cap space completely up for a lot of years, right? It was like a 2-3 year fuck you kind of thing. He left the team when he knew he wasn't going to be able to bring on any players. So, like, Sean Payton is not that great of a coach. He went to the playoffs a few times, got him one Super Bowl, but this situation has, been lingering and going to linger for 2 to 3 years after Sean Payton left the Saints. So that's a great guy, right? You want a coach that comes on your team, right? Puts your team in an utter purgatory, like cap hell, and then just like leaves your team like out to hang high and dry because he knew he was going to be able to get enough people on the team because he put him in a salary cap fucked up situation. So it's funny to me, dude. It really is. That everybody looks up to this guy, and this guy utterly fucked the Saints. So Sean Payton isn't what he seems to be, guys. He helped fuck this franchise up, and they are going to be paying for that tag at least until next year. So looking at it and looking at the savings, guys, right? Everybody's like, oh, he's going to go to the Saints. No, he's not. They have no money, guys. No money. Even if you increase the cap space by $20 million, they are still $33 million fucked. Negative, not positive, negative. So he's not going to the Saints. So Saints is off the board. I'm taking Saints off the board. He's not going to the Saints, okay? Let's go down to the next team, all right? Carolina Panthers, all right? Let's see if this might be a good fit. So let's get in. We'll go back. Pull up the Panthers here. Before I run, shout out to Edward. Hey, I'd rather have Sean Payton too to some degree, but not, dude. He was bad for their organization long term. He hurt their organization long term by what I just showed you guys, man. I don't want to coach like that. This is the situation of what the Raiders got dealt when McKenzie became our GM from what Al Davis put it in. The situation Al Davis put us in. We were in purgatory hell, guys, and that's why we had to do the rebuild. We had to start all over from scratch, draft, and more failed draft picks, right? But we didn't have the money. And then Gruden came in. We were getting in the same situation, especially after Derek Carr's contract. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want this to be a Derek Carr bashing thing. I wish him the best moving forward. So I'll just leave it at that. But this is what happens when you pay guys top money, especially quarterbacks. And if they don't produce enough, how it can hurt you long term. Now, looking at the Carolina Panthers, now their situation isn't nearly as bad as some of the other ones. All right. They're still negative. They're -8. Let's say, plus 20 million. We'll use plus 20 million for the cap increase, right? So they'd have, I don't know, maybe 15 or so million to work with, somewhere in there, 10, 15 million. So let's go through their roster. Let's look at, if there's any savings in here. Shaq Thompson, right? 13 million. That could be a good player that they may have to cut ties with, right? If they want Derek Carr. So share this tab. Shaq Thompson, linebacker, right? Shaq Thompson, he's a stud, right? He's a really good linebacker. I'd be willing to bring on a guy like that to the Raiders if I was the Raiders general manager, right? I think that's kind of a fair deal to everybody. If we're like, hey, we'll trade you Derek Carr, Shaq Thompson, maybe a 5th round or something later, or maybe just an even swap. But take on that kind of contract, pay him 13 mil. I don't like that. He is a little older, right? He's a little older, but if you draft another linebacker, that I'd like that. I'd like to have a guy like Shaq Thompson on the Raiders. Other than Shaq Thompson, Pat Elfman. So this is a center, right? I don't know if they'd be willing to get rid of their center, but that's a guy that they could cut or trade to save some money. Go down the line, and everybody else, the numbers are just too small. Maybe this guy, to me, it's got to be 3 million and up. Frank Luvo, another linebacker. So maybe that's a possibility. Okay, maybe that's a possibility. They'd be willing to consider that. But when you look at all these things, guys, this is why, when we take off our fan hat, we think about this from a higher mind setting. It's got to make sense to all parties. It can't just be like, oh, well, it's the coach, the GM, and it's a good fit for Derek Carr, maybe, but it's got to be a good fit for everybody. Okay, so let's say we did that Shaq Thompson, right? Let's do this Shaq Thompson. They're at -8 million. So if we cut him, let's see where it goes. So now they're positive $5 million, right? Positive $5 million, right? Plus, let's say 20 million increase in cap space going into this next year. That's only $25 million, guys. Unless they backloaded Derek Carr's contract, it's going to be hard for them to take this on. But they could do it. This is a better fit than the other teams as far as a general manager standpoint. So the Panthers could be a realistic situation, but the only way this happens is if the Panthers either trade or cut Shaq Thompson. So and maybe one or two other players possibly, So maybe that center, what would I say, Pat Eflin, you know what I mean? That would save them almost 5 million. But again, you start cutting players, that takes away from how successful your team can do, So that's everything is a cause and effect. So, this is why, like, when we were saying, like, well, Khalil Mack should have got signed, we weren't going to be able to do it with Derek Carr's contract. He just got a new contract and stuff, guys. All right. So Panthers, good possibility. There's a realistic possibility that could happen. All right. So let's get into the Washington Commanders next. Okay. Another team, everybody's like Jack Del Rio and, Derek Carr should go be, on the Washington Commanders. Now, as I'm pulling this up, you got to think, though, does the Washington Commanders have a stable franchise as far as coach, owner, and all that shit? I'm going to say no with the leaked emails from John Gruden and all the turmoil with the owner of that team. So I'm not sure Derek Carr is going to want to entertain that, let alone that was the team that either released or had something to do with John Gruden getting fired. Okay. So their cap space is not terrible, better than some of the others. The Washington Commanders could go after Derek Carr. If we do this number plus 20 million, they'd be around 31 million, right? 31 million they could potentially have. So Carson Wentz, okay? They went and got Carson Wentz. Look at this. All right, 0 dead money. If they cut him or they get rid of him, they could save 26 million. So that's a no-brainer. They got to get rid of Carson Wentz, right? Especially if they wanted to get Derek Carr. All right, so let's cut him. Let's say we're getting rid of Carson Wentz. We don't want nothing to do with him. Boom, right there, instantly 37 million. Okay, plus the 20 million. They might have like $57 million in cap space. So I'm not even going to go through and look who maybe the Raiders could trade for to do like a swap, like any of these other guys, if it'd be saving money, because they're going to have enough money where they don't have to trade a player. So maybe maybe the Commanders would trade a draft pick to get Derek Carr, if we're talking about like an actual trade. Or maybe they wait for Derek Carr to get released, and the Commanders are a realistic destination. As long as he feels that it's a stable enough organization, the Washington Commanders is a realistic destination for Derek Carr to go to. But we've canceled out Tampa Bay. We've canceled out the Saints. We've canceled out some teams that it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. Okay. So going back into the teams that we've gone through, right? So Tampa Bay, no. Colts is questionable, probably no. Tampa Bay is a definite no. Saints is a definite no, guys. They can't financially float that money, dude. Panthers, potentially. They'd still have to cut a player or do something. Washington Commanders, as far as the money and the numbers work out, is the best fit as of now, is the Commanders, okay? And that's it for this article. So I'll get back into the chat here. Anybody else you guys want me to look at, let's do it, okay? I know somebody said something about the Dolphins, so we'll pull up the Dolphins here. Anybody else have a team you want to look at that you think, Derek Carr could go to? Let me know, and we'll look at it. And I ain't trying to hate on people. I'm just saying we got to be smarter, right? As a fan base, we got to think about this. Does this actually make sense, okay? Does any of these things make sense other than we're just in a wishing well and we're not looking at the actual numbers? Because some of these guys like doing Raider content, they do like clickbait shit, and they have like a name of a team, and they're like, they got 40,000 plus subs or 100,000, and they're like this guy, and like it literally makes no sense. I just showed you, I just proved you there's no way Derek Carr can go to either the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Saints. Both those teams have to draft a quarterback, right? So because everything has a cause and effect. The only way both those teams moving forward is they have to draft somebody. They can't afford to pay any of these quarterbacks any substantial amount of money. So when you look at the draft and you're looking at, well, who are they going to take? And if we draft back or whatever, that's where you could be like, hey, I might trade back in the draft, right, with either Tampa Bay or the Saints and get more draft picks because they need a quarterback. They can't afford these contracts, guys. They can't. All right. So Giants. All right. Giants is a good one. Thank you. Who's that? Chaos Raider. Hey, what's up, dude? I ain't seen you in a minute, dude. I remember you. You're one of the OGs for my channel. So shout out to you, man. Baltimore trade starring Lamar. As far as like if we were to trade for Lamar, we can't take on that contract, in my opinion. So that's just kind of where I'm at. And then Dominique, I mean, you got to think, guys. All right, these articles are just like from a fan perspective. They didn't do what I just did, okay? And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, right? I'm guilty of this as well, where I was looking at it from how other people were looking at it as well, where I'm like, what's the best fit for Derek Carr? Where would he want to go? Would that team want him? Whatever. We can want all we want. But if we don't crunch the numbers to see if it's realistically possible, then that makes it really tough, guys. It makes it really tough to like have that standpoint. And like when it just financially doesn't make sense. Like they literally do not have the money or the cap space to do it unless they're going to give a guy like a big bonus and like fully guaranteed money where they're willing to, take that on. So, all right, so let's get in here. I'm rambling a little bit. Sorry, guys. Let's get in here to the Dolphins. Okay. Dolphins, they're negative 7 million. Okay. So I guess if we did, plus 20 million, I should have my calculator pulled up to make it a little easier as I'm doing this. So give me a second. So 20 minus 7, 13. I could do it in my head, but it's just too many numbers. I'm going too quick here. So, all right. So $13 million is approximately what they would have after the cap increase. Give me 1 second, guys. My dog's whining here. Hold on. All right, guys. Sorry. My dog is the biggest baby. He's like freaking out because there's another dog. My wife's friend has somebody over. So it's funny. Yeah, he freaks out, going crazy, wants to go play with the dog. All right. So all right, Dolphins would have 13 million available. So let's get in and see if there's anybody they can cut to save money. 4 million. They're going to eat a lot. I mean, we should look at the dead cap space, but they'd eat a lot right here. Excuse me, to be able to take that on, they brought in Bradley Chubb, signed him to a contract. So they probably shouldn't have signed Bradley Chubb here, guys. They probably shouldn't have signed Bradley Chubb to this contract, but they probably also didn't think they would have the issues with Tua, okay? Because Tua's with all these concussions probably is not going to be playing for them next year is the way I'm looking at it, okay? All right, Byron Jones could be a possibility. Cornerback, that the Raiders could look at in a trade, but they would eat a lot of dead money to make that kind of situation happen. So I don't know how realistic or no. Yeah, Byron Jones right here. They'd eat 4 million, cap hit, and then they'd eat 14 million. So like some of these are tough decisions they got to make. You know what I mean? Like, you can look at the amount you're only saving, but they're also eating this amount too. You know what I mean? So it does make it tough. Let's look at Jerome Baker here, linebacker. Okay. Jerome Baker, that might be an interesting way that, you could work something out with the Dolphins. We need a linebacker. So any team that has a good or pretty good linebacker, I'd say that's a smart way to look at this from like an analytical standpoint and whatnot. So pull up I pushed the wrong button again. Sorry, guys. Pull up the shared screen again. And look, man, we've all done it, right? I'm a Raider fan. I've done it as well, where I'm like, oh, I'd like this player. I'd like this player. But we don't dive enough into these guys' contracts, what we'd have to pay them. So, all right. So someone said Baltimore, Tennessee Titans. We can look at those. Give us Tyreek Hill and they get Carr. Nice. I like it. Texans. Okay. All right. We'll look at them. Anybody else you guys want to look at, put in the chat. So make sure I don't forget any of these. So, all right. So Ravens, we need to look at Ravens, Titans, and then Texans. Okay. And then we'll finish up here with the Dolphins. Okay. So again, Dolphins, they'd have about 13 million after the increase. But they gotta, I don't know, guys. I mean, looking at it right off the bat, it's hard for me to say Dolphins would be a good fit. I mean, I think it'd be a good fit for Derek Carr, the team, the coach. I think there's a lot of like positives, right? Here's Tua. See, Tua's negative. It wouldn't even save any money, guys, by cutting Tua. You know what I mean? Look, it doesn't even if they had to get rid of him because the concussions, look, doesn't even change the cap number, right? Doesn't even change that. So, you know, they're going to eat $10 million here for Tua to not be, you know, playing or whatever. So, I mean, we could look at this. Here's $5 million. Let's look at Connor Williams here. So left guard, right? Left guard. Potential, you know, that one could be considered in the scheme of things. But looking at it, you know, remember they only have 13 million available. They need at least 35 million available to get Derek Carr, unless they backload his contract or whatever. So, or restructure his contract and whatever. So, they're in kind of a tight spot. They'd have to do like two things, guys. They'd have to get rid of this guard, save 5 million there. Jerome Baker, that'd be those two added would be like 9 million. And maybe Byron Jones, another 4 million. That's only 15 million. So 15 plus 13, you know, just shy of 30 million. That'd be 27 million. So looking at the Dolphins, you know, I think that it'd be a good fit for Derek Carr, and I think he'd like to be there, but they got to cut 3 players. They got to cut or trade 3 players to have enough money to take on that kind of contract for Derek Carr. So I'm almost going to say that the Dolphins is probably not realistic. Okay. All right. Let's get into, someone said the Ravens. The Ravens, I think, have enough money to make it happen. So we'll see. The Ravens did design their team around a running style quarterback. Okay. So Ravens, you know, $40 million in cap space plus 20 million. They're going to have 60 million available. So if the Ravens don't sign Lamar Jackson, the Ravens have enough to get Derek Carr. So the Ravens, like, I don't even need to dive into any of these other guys down here. The Ravens have enough money to make it realistic for Derek Carr to be a Raven, you know, if they want to. So the Ravens, that's a realistic possibility. And that's funny because nobody's even said the Ravens, right? I know someone said something about trading Lamar Jackson. I don't think the Raiders are going to do it. We don't really have enough money. I don't think the Ravens are going to let Lamar Jackson go. But if they did, right? If they did, they are a serious consideration for Derek Carr. Stable coach, stable franchise. It's a little bit cold there sometimes in Baltimore. But this is, oh shit, I forgot to share the tab. Sorry, guys. I don't know how long I've been going with that. All right. But Ravens is a realistic, you know, possibility for them to look at. So 40 million in cap space, right? Plus the 20 million. I'll go over it again because I forgot to click back over. So they got 40 million available plus 20 million. So 60 million would be available. And I don't even think we need to look at any of these guys down here for who they would save money with. I mean, I'd love to have Campbell as a Raider. You know, if they wanted to save a little bit of money, we could look at Campbell. You know, interior defensive lineman, super stud, getting a little bit older, but well, he's 36. He's a lot of old. I forgot he was that old. So I'm going to say I would not, if I was the Raiders, I would not want that contract, not at 36 years old, unless we're just one player away from like winning a Super Bowl, and we're not one player away. All right, I'm going to click back over the chat here, see if anybody saying anything. Ricardo, what up, man? He said, or if we get Willis, so I think you're talking about Levi Willis or whatnot. But anyways, and some picks for Carr, we can use the picks on what we need. Yeah, exactly, dude. So that's a good take, dude. I like that. So, yeah, I'm going to say the Ravens is a realistic possibility, guys. I really do. All right, so Ricardo asked about the Texans. So that's a good one. I think Texans should be a serious consideration. However, looking at it from Derek Carr's standpoint, not really a stable organization, not a stable coach. So, but we'll still pull it up because it's always good. Let's look at all possibilities, guys, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're going to take all the data. We're going to try to cancel out the noise, like the real from the fakes, right? We're just doing an analytical diagnosis of if it makes sense or not. And the ones that don't make sense, that we can take them off the board. And if we take them off the board, then that limits the possibilities and what's like realistic. So Texans, I think, or did you say Titans or Texans? Let me click back over. Cardinals. We could look at Cardinals, but I know they just paid Kyler Murray, so I doubt it. So let's get into the Texans here. We can look at Cardinals here in a minute. Anybody else you guys want to throw in here we can look at? All right, Texans. Right off the bat, 38 million plus the 20 million they're probably going to have in available cap space. They're going to have like 58 million. Texans is a realistic possibility, guys. That was actually the first team I thought would be a good fit for Derek Carr. I thought Carr kind of grew up a Texans fan or whatever because of his brother and whatnot. Maybe he feels like that organization burned his brother, so I don't know if he'd want to do it. Now the coaching staff's a big issue. Now, unless Greg Olson, his old offensive coordinator, went there with him. Now that's so like a team that has let's say a team that has a coaching issue, right? So we're just going to look at it from a standpoint of like, a team that's like getting a new coach or something. How's that going to work for Derek Carr? I don't think Derek Carr is going to want to go to a team like that. However, if it's a package deal where Greg Olson, like whoever the head coach is or whatever, if you pick Greg Olson to be your offensive coordinator, whether or not people liked him and his play calling or whatever, he knows a system that, along with Derek Carr, that would be a smooth transition. All they got to do is teach it to the rest of the team, which that's a huge part too. But I'm just saying, like, Derek Carr at least would know that system. He doesn't have to learn an entire new system. So now, if a team like the Texans would be willing to do something like that and get a Greg Olson as offensive coordinator and use the playbook that Carr was used to, like essentially John Gruden's playbook, then that might be a good fit, guys. It's a warm weather place, right? It's just a question of, is that a stable enough franchise, and how close are they to being a win now team, right? How close are the Texans to being a win now team? Now, Texans have the second overall pick. So that's the next question. If you were the Texans, right? So we have to look at it from everything. Even if you have the money, if you're the Texans, do you want to go with a guy like Derek Carr, meaning you're trying to win now, or do you want to draft your next franchise quarterback? That's a big question. You're going to pass up Bryce Young or CJ Stroud to bring in Derek Carr? Because if you're bringing in Derek Carr, you're probably not going to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. You're probably going to go like a D lineman, maybe O lineman, something like that, or maybe trade back. So even though they have the money, right, and all the other things considered, they pick very high in the draft, and they would have to decide as an organization if they would rather have Derek Carr than someone like a Bryce Young. And I'm not convinced that they would, but we can still look at it. I mean, this is a huge allotment of money right here with Laramie Tunzel. Just kind of curious. So left tackle, he's making a lot of money, dude. This guy's this is an awesome player. I don't think they'd be willing to get rid of this dude as much as Raiders need a stud tackle, and that's a lot of money for us to take on. I don't think we could afford paying $17 million a year to a stud tackle, and I doubt they're going to eat that much money, or whatever. So, and they really don't need to, guys. They got enough money available in here, plus whatever the cap increase. The Texans are in a good spot if they get the right coach to really do some like big things, sign some stud players and stuff. So Texans is a realistic possibility depending on what they want to do in the draft, okay, as an organization. So let me click back over here to the chat, see what you guys are saying. Tennessee. All right, we'll look at Tennessee. Seahawks. Shotzi Chaos Raider. See what Raider data say. All right, doing the right thing, hardcore. Tough love is what most of us need. I predict the Raiders cut Carr, but at the end next week, Ziegler is not putting us in purgatory hell. Yeah, they aren't, guys. And this is how, I'll be honest with you guys, all right? So like midway through or before midway, okay, about fourth week of the season, I started looking at the Raiders cap space and everything available and Derek Carr's contract. And I knew this shit was going to happen. I just didn't want to say it. And I'm not trying to be like a Monday, like morning quarterback. I didn't want to say it because I don't want to put that shit out in the open and like negativity during the season and kill the team. I do believe people should be held accountable. And thank you, Raider Dad, for, giving me some respect. But, I just think that like we got to look at it from all standpoints, right? When I looked at the contracts coming due, like I knew if Derek Carr didn't ball out this year, he was going to be gone. There's no way the Raiders from a financial standpoint would or should be willing to keep Derek Carr. And this was a tough reality for me, guys. And I looked into it because I wanted to know, Are we getting duped again? Like how John Gruden duped us, saying it wasn't a rebuild. Are we getting duped again? And are we going to go through another rebuild just like we did, right, with John Gruden? And when I looked at it, I said, fuck me. I said, holy shit, guys. I said, we're in a bad situation. If we don't do really good this year, we're probably going through another rebuild. And it pissed me off. I'm just as emotional as anybody, right? And a lot of Raider Nation, it pissed me off because I realized we're in a bad spot. And there's a lot of holes still on this team. And I knew we were kind of like screwed, right? I don't want to go through another rebuild. That's the thing, guys, right? So I looked at it in depth from an analytical standpoint. I took my fan hat off, which is tough. I'm a big Raider fan, dude. It's tough to like take our fan hat off and look at it from a business standpoint. When you do, things make a little more sense. It takes a little more emotion out of it. Not saying much or all of it, but it makes a little more sense of like, is it going to work? If we go this direction, is that going to work? Or if we go this direction, is that going to work? And that's all I'm doing, right? I'm not saying it even necessarily one way is right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, what are the possibilities? And is it possible, like right now, is it possible Derek Carr goes to the Saints? Is it possible Derek Carr, how probable is it, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? It's not. Derek Carr ain't going to the Saints, guys. He's not going to the Saints. He's not going to the Buccaneers. Neither of those teams are in a win now mode. They've sacrificed too much on their salary cap. It's not going to happen. I'd put my paycheck. I would bet money that he's not going to at least to either of those teams. They don't have enough money. They can't even cut enough players to free up enough money to make it happen. They'd have to backload that contract so much that I don't know. But so I'll just leave it at that. So, all right. Next up, what we're saying. All right. So Tennessee. So let's do the Titans here, and then all right, we did the Ravens already. Then we'll do the Seahawks. So Titans, Seahawks. I think someone said something about Cardinals. Anybody else you guys want to see, let me know. This is the Texans. So let's pull up the Titans here. Titans aren't in a good spot, guys, not to get Derek Carr. I know some people were thinking the Titans would be a good spot, but you add in $20 million, they'd be negative $3 million, guys. Negative $3 million. Maybe. Let's see. All right, Ryan Tannehill, right? If you cut him, you're going to save $17 million, but you're also taking a hit of $18 million. So you have to decide if you really want to take that kind of hit. But let's just say we're like, all right, we're done with Ryan Tannehill. We want Derek Carr or whatever they're going to do. So we cut Ryan Tannehill. Now it's a little more feasible, right? Because now you'd be at negative $6 million, right? Plus your $20 million, right? So 20 subtract 6 would be $14 million. So they'd have about $14 million to work with if they cut Ryan Tannehill. Okay. So if they did that, they got to do something else, though. They still got to do something else, guys. So they'd probably have to do something like this. So let's look at Bud Dupree. I completely didn't share it. Sorry, guys. Fuck. It's because I'm clicking back and forth between screens. I need a second monitor. All right. And if I goof up, someone let me know. I'll try to click back and forth in the chat here and there. So apologize for that. All right. So Tennessee Titans starting from the top, 23, almost negative 24 million. Okay. If you add in the 20 million, then, they'd be about negative 4 million. Okay. And then again, we look at Ryan Tannehill. If we cut him, we'd be at like negative 17 million, right? Or we'd save 17 million. But you're going to eat 18.8 million. So this is what happens, guys, when you pay quarterbacks too much fucking money, right? This is what happens. So we cut him, right? Do it again, negative 23. Watch what happens when we cut him. All right, negative 6 million. Plus our 20 million, we're probably going to have increased cap space, right? So it's getting a little better, okay, if they cut Ryan Tannehill. But I still think they'd have to do something else. So this is where I was saying, let's look at Bud Dupree. They'd still take a big hit. They'd have to eat 10 million, but they could save 9 million. So say we're like, all right, they want Derek Carr. We're going to do a trade. So let's pull up Bud Dupree, edge rusher. It's just, with an edge rusher, I don't think the Raiders are going to be willing to pay Chandler Jones and take on another edge rusher contract for this amount. So I would say as the Raiders, like, they're not going to be willing to take on that kind of money. Here's one they could save almost 6 million. Kevin Byard, 30 years old, a little older. safety, safety. Raiders need a safety. Maybe you could consider this deal, right? But he's old. He's older. I don't know if the Raiders would be willing to take on that kind of contract, for that age. And if you're the Titans, you're going to eat a lot of money. You're going to eat almost 14 million, 13.5 million right here. Derrick Henry, we don't need a running back, but he's getting a lot of money. Here's one that could save a lot of money. Who's this? Oh, yeah. I think that's their offensive lineman. So this is a big one. This one could happen, guys. Taylor, I can't pronounce that. Lewan, I think it is. Let's look at him. Yeah, the left tackle. This guy, I like this. I've always liked this dude. His attitude and stuff. Super stud left tackle, guys. This would be an awesome deal if the Raiders could work that out, right? So that is probably the best bet, I would say, as a Raiders fan. Maybe they may not like it, but they could draft a tackle and the draft, right? If they get Derek Carr. So we cut, right? We cut Ryan Tannehill. Let's say we cut Taylor Lewan, all right, offensive tackle. Let's say we make him a Raider. Now they're plus 8 million, okay? Plus the 20 million they'd have, so they'd have about 28 million. They could probably make that work. But the only way this happens is if they're willing to eat the money from Ryan Tannehill and bring on Taylor Lewan. So it depends if they're willing to eat that much money and if they think Derek Carr is a massive upgrade to Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, a little older than Derek Carr. They're about equal in play, as far as quality. Some might say Ryan Tannehill is a little better than Derek Carr, but I'd say they're pretty equal. So I don't know if from a Titans standpoint, if they'd look at this and they think that's a good deal and if they'd want to go that route. But it's a possibility, it's a possibility that they could do that. But if they don't do that, they're still like negative $4 million. Say they keep Ryan Tannehill and the offensive tackle I was talking about. They're still in a position where they're going to be like negative 23 million, even with a 23 million or 20 million increase in cap space. It's still a difference of like 4 million. So, all right. Someone said Seahawks. Let's pull up Seahawks next, kind of scroll down, see if any guys are saying anything. New England. So, all right. So we'll look at New England, Seahawks. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So Raider Way saying like ties with Carr, or cut ties with Carr, and we get nothing unless Zeke has guaranteed trade partner. Yeah, and it's just too much risk, man. I mean, it is, and so appreciate Raider Way trying to do this from like not. I'm trying to take like I'm an emotional fan too, guys. I am, right, and like I'm like, oh well, this would work, and like I think about it from my brain standpoint and my own like narrow-minded perspectiveness at times. But as we're breaking it down, we're looking at this from a different perspective. We have to consider like, all these factors, in my opinion, to do a true evaluation, right? We're looking at all sides of the coin. Okay. Not just one side and what some clickbait video says. We're really doing a deep dive into this, and really the only thing I could say is, like for Titans, like I said before, would be if they, were willing to cut ties with Taylor Lewan here, right here. They'd save, zero money, 8, and they'd save 14 million. They might have to get rid of Lewan because of this number that they'd eat and what they would save no matter what they do, guys. So we need a tackle, right? This guy might be in play in this offseason, right? So this, like, we could go through guys' rosters and look for something similar to this where the team eats nothing and they save this amount. Because remember, even after the increase in their cap space, the Titans are going to be negative $4 million. They got to do something. They're going to have to cut somebody or trade somebody. So Taylor Lewan could be a real target for the Raiders to go out and get an offensive tackle. And we know the Raiders need an offensive tackle stud, right? So if we're talking about getting Tom Brady and, and whatnot, we're talking about getting Tom Brady, we're going to have to look at guys who can be an offensive tackle in free agency and be able to block. But the other part of it is, like, as far as the Raiders standpoint, because we haven't even gotten into our salary and whatnot and free agents and all that stuff, is, can the Raiders take this on, right? Say we have 60 million available, right? Let's just do the math. I want Josh Jacobs, so like I don't even know if we should consider that at this point. But let's say we had 60 million in cap space, okay? And say we're taking 15 million right off the bat because we're going to get, say we trade, we do something with the Titans to get this dude, okay? We'd have $45 million available. Now, so let's say we sign Jacobs. Let's do the what if. We sign Jacobs, we're going to pay him $13 million per year, somewhere in there. We'd have $32 million left after all that. $32 million left, guys. And if Tom Brady wants 35 million, that means we could get a tackle. So this is why I've said in past videos, we you're lucky to get 2 or 3 studs. We could get this dude, Taylor Lewan. We could get Josh Jacobs and Tom Brady, and after that, you got no money left. So it has to make sense to the Raiders too. I don't know if we got enough money to make that happen. I'd love for him to be the Raider. Don't get me wrong. I mean, maybe we could restructure the contract or something like that, but it's just one of those things that like has to make sense, guys. If it doesn't make sense, I mean, it's just one of those things, you know what I mean? All right, so we did the Titans. All right, we'll do Seahawks next. Pull it up here. And we have to consider the draft too, guys. That's the other factor. Besides money, is it a good fit for Derek Carr, all that stuff? Are these teams going to want somebody like a Derek Carr or go get somebody in the draft? What's the draft order? Where are they going to draft? What's the possibilities they can go out and get their future stud quarterback of the future and not have to pay somebody 30, 35 mil, or whatever, 40 mil. So looking at that standpoint, and Geno Smith has been balling out. So, right now I've got the game kind of on the background, not paying too much attention because I give 2 cents about really either of these teams. Ooh, that was like almost a late hit or targeting. I don't know. So I'm not paying too much attention to it. I'm more concerned about the Raiders and what the Raiders need to do moving forward. So check this out. Seahawks, $48 million, guys. So this is why it was smart for them to get rid of Russell Wilson, dude. You know what I mean? Russell Wilson wanted too much money. The Broncos are idiots for taking on that contract, guys. Look at the cap space they have available. They have so many options right here. Plus, if you factor in the add $20 million to this amount, they're going to have like $68 million in cap space to go sign guys. So Seahawks could be a realistic possibility. A lot of people probably aren't even considering the Seahawks enough. Derek Carr, they have a good coach, stable organization. Seahawks might be the best fit for Derek Carr. I bet you Seahawks, out of looking at all these, it was like Seahawks or Panthers before this, losing track of some of them. But some of these guys make more sense than not. I should have wrote some of these down because there's a lot of numbers I'm crunching here. But I would say Seahawks are a realistic possibility, guys. They don't even need to cut anybody, trade anybody. All they need to do is do good in the draft. And if they want to take on Derek Carr's contract, they can. But again, the only thing is they have all this money available. Okay. Do they want to go get a rookie quarterback, their franchise quarterback, or do they want to win now type of mode? I mean, Seahawks are playing the Niners 17-16. Seahawks just kicked a field goal. Niners are a super awesome team. And, the Seahawks are keeping up with them. How many people, I don't even know what the spread was. How many people thought that the Seahawks would be competing with the Niners like this? I probably didn't, to be honest with you guys. So, does the Seahawks want to stay with Geno Smith? He's leading them down the field right now, scoring points. Look at that. Look at their coach, man. Pete Carroll's all excited. He's old as dirt, dude, and he's still winning with this team. So, Seahawks are a good team, man. Halftime against the Whiners. And you know what? If I was a Niners fan, I'd be pretty worried. You know what I mean? I'd be pretty worried right now if I was a Niners fan, So, all right, next up. So, Seahawks, potential good fit. Done the Ravens, Seahawks was the other one. Someone said Patriots. Yeah, let's look at Patriots. No connections there, yeah. So, who said what? What were you saying, William? Not sure what you're referring to, dude. All right. Let's go in. Let's do the Patriots. You guys, and there's going to be, I'm going to look at this from another standpoint too, not like a quarterback standpoint, because that's essentially what we're doing. I'm going to look at this from another standpoint at a later point in time. Not going to do it this video. We're going to go in. We're going to see what teams have quarterback contracts come and due, guys, right? Quarterback contracts come and due. They're there. Oh, no, clicked on the wrong one. So, like, you know, my point is like you have teams. Oh, I think Giants was one of the other ones or whatever. So, you know, you got teams who are going to have quarterbacks coming, contracts coming due, like Justin Herbert, things like that are going to affect, you know, Joe Burrow. Probably not this year, probably one more year before they sign Joe Burrow. But when these guys' contracts comes due, man, I mean, you know, how are they going to pay everybody? How are they going to pay everybody? You know what I mean? You know, it ends up being a situation that's where, like, if you know that like a quarterback's going to get signed, that's where maybe you can go in and trade for one of their players because they need to free up some money. Oh, Falcons. You want me to do the Falcons? Is that what you're saying, William? We can look at them too. I can't remember. Yeah, because I haven't done the Falcons yet, have I? I think they have quite a bit of money available, if I remember right. But Falcons, I think, is one of the areas that's probably a good fit too, besides possibly the coach situation. All right. So New England, not in a bad spot here. 39 million available plus 20 million. I'd have to look at you know, Jones' contract and see Mac Jones. I don't remember. Okay. Yeah, so he's still under contract. His contract's probably due after this next season. So they would save they would take a negative $5 million hit. So there's no way that they would like from a smart standpoint, do like a Mac Jones for Derek Carr trade. And I personally don't like Mac Jones, but like I just wanted to look at it real quick here just to see if there was anything like possible. Like if it would make sense at all for the Raiders to go get somebody like a Mac Jones as far as a financial standpoint. And it doesn't. If you're the Patriots, you're going to eat that much money. You're going to eat $15 million, getting no cap savings. You'll be negative $5 million. That'd be an unwise business decision. So, you know, they have enough money available. I don't even think we need to look at it from it because it's going to be this number plus the $20 million increase in cap space. I don't think we need to look at it from a standpoint like breaking down any of these other players. So, you know, like Judon, he's a great player. I doubt like they do like a trade with him for Derek Carr or anything like that. You know, and they still have Mac Jones there. So even though they have the money for Derek Carr, what they're paying Mac Jones and what they would take for a hit to either have Mac Jones be on the bench or trade, financially, it doesn't make sense. Even though their number is high enough here for their cap space, it would be a bad business decision for them to think that they should, you know, make a trade for Derek Carr. So, all right. And then we'll find the Falcons on here. We'll see what the Falcons look like. Look at that. Falcons got a lot of money, guys. Falcons got a lot of moolah. 61 million available plus 20. They're going to have about 80 million available. So yeah, I mean, I don't even think we need to look at any of these other players. You know, the Falcons could sign Derek Carr outright. The question becomes, is that a stable organization from coaching? Who's going to be the offensive coordinator? I know the Falcons like benched Marcus Mariota like the 12th week or 4 games left in the season. Marcus Mariota got benched and then Marcus Mariota left the team. So the Falcons actually kind of did Marcus Mariota dirty, like how the Raiders did Derek Carr dirty. So if you're Derek Carr, are you going to want to go play for somebody that's willing to, you know, bench Mariota last 4 weeks of the season or whatever? I don't know. I'd have a lot of concerns if I was Derek Carr going to the Falcons. But if you get that taken care of, maybe Greg Olsen comes over as a offensive play caller, and they use you know, a playbook that Derek Carr is familiar with, like a John Gruden playbook. Maybe Derek Carr considers that. You know, maybe they'll pay Derek Carr the most money. So far, they have the most money to play with. Maybe the Falcons feel like they're in a win now mode. I don't think they are. I think they're in a rebuild mode, but I would say they could consider it, and Derek Carr might be able to make $40-45 million from the Falcons. He might be able to get the biggest contract from the Falcons if he's willing to go that route. So just depends on like where Derek Carr's at and if he wants to go play for that organization. It's indoors, so there's pluses there. All right, 49ers. So William was saying 49ers. We'll look at the